How was the experience of working with someone like Clint Eastwood?
It was an honor, obviously.
Who are the filmmakers that you'd like to work with?
Sanjay Leela Bhansali is on the top of my dream list to work with for obvious reasons.
You being a Gujarati, do you know Pratik Gandhi?
Yeah, he's a superstar of Gujarati cinema, right? So
Who are the actors that you like?
Rani Mukerji and Hrithik Roshan and Kajol. કેમ છો બધા? જય શ્રી કૃષ્ણ. મારું નામ એમિલી છે. તમારું નામ શું છે? સી હું બધું બોલી શકું.
We have with us Emily Shah. She is making a Bollywood debut with Jungle Cry, and she has worked with Clint Eastwood. Pleasure having you with us on Bollywood Hungama.
Thank you for having me.
My first interest in you will be that how was the experience of working with someone like Clint Eastwood?
It was an honor, obviously. Anybody and any field in the industry always wants to work with an icon like that. So to be able to do that at such a young age was a complete tremendous honor, and I've learned so much from him. I mean, just working with him behind the camera, I'm able to take tools that I've learned from him and apply it to acting and being on set. And sometimes I do ask the directors, like I asked Sagar Ballari, if we could use some of Mr. Eastwood's techniques, and it helps me tremendously on set.
So you assisted him.
I did.
Which film?
Jersey Boys.
Okay. Are you a bigger fan of his acting or a bigger fan of his direction?
Don't put me on the spot like that. I mean, he's incredible in both. You know what? For me, watching him direct was obviously close to my heart because I was able to do it live, and seeing how calm he is on set. Because sometimes you get directors and they're, it's like a whirlwind and almost like this tornado where they're coming through set and it's like an orchestra that they're orchestrating. But with him, he was so grounded. I have never seen a director that grounded. And it taught me that if you're that grounded on set, you have a much better perception of how you want your actors to behave and how you want your direction to come across. So seeing that, because I had come from a Marvel background and I did a Marvel, Captain America, I worked with the stunt team on that. So going from that chaos to that much of a grounded individual was such a contrast. And I think I prefer the groundedness. So that was probably my favorite thing, was watching him directing.
Why I say that the experience of Clint Eastwood, the actor or the director, because I think it is so fascinating, the sort of films that he did as an actor and the sort of films that he chooses to direct. Yeah. I think there is such a contrast in them, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say even on Jersey Boys, he went as far as actually hiring the Jersey Boys from Broadway. So he was working with theater actors, which is something you don't see often in Hollywood. I mean, you have your theater actors and they kind of stick to theater, and then you have, your on-screen camera actors and they kind of stick to that. So to see him work with theater actors and bringing that essence of theater and again, grounding it so that way it looks so beautiful on the camera was just, it's a masterpiece. You're literally watching a legend create masterpiece.
Assisting the greats and then working on a Marvel film in the stunt team, as you mentioned, and then making a debut of, you can say it like Bollywood debut, like a movie debut with Jungle Cry opposite Abhay Deol. How did that happen in the first place?
I saw the script. I came on as an EP originally, and once I read the script, I realized that there was not a single female character in the entire script. Obviously, we live in the generation of 2020 and we should be, having females across the board. But to not have that element, of course, you're missing that, right? In any cinema, from the beginning of time, you always have a good balance of genders. And so for it to be so masculine and testosterone heavy, as Abhay likes to say, it just, you felt that. You felt that warmth of a feminine touch missing and that compassion missing, especially with rugby being such a rigid and rough sport. It was something that changes that needed to be made. And so I asked Shahryar Boxwala if we can make these changes and bring in that female element of a doctor. So that way, not only is she compassionate as a doctor, but she's also training these boys to have mindfulness when they play and to be compassionate and supporting one another as such a community. And so I think that there's a really big contrast between Abhay's character and my character, and seeing them come together and the way that they handle the children together is beautiful on screen.
Okay, now having experienced both behind the scenes and in front of the cameras, what is it that you find more fascinating?
I mean, I love being in front of the camera. Acting is my number one, passion, and I've loved doing that since I was a kid. I studied at Madhumati's acting school over here in Juhu when I was 5 years old, and then after that, I did Lee Strasberg for about 13 years since I was 7, all the way up into my adulthood. Did New York Film Academy, Margie Haber, a bunch of other studios all throughout the U.S., and so I knew at a very young age I wanted to act. But the reason why I chose to work in production right off the bat was because I wanted to get my degree in college, and I wanted to understand and respect what happens behind the camera before I got in front of the camera. And I think a lot of great actors do that, especially in Bollywood. You'll see them working on the AD team before they become such a successful actor. And I think there's a reason for that madness, method to the madness is what they say.
So what is it that you think you'd want to prioritize? Is it the Indian film industry or Hollywood, considering that you've been in LA for the last 10 years? What is it that you're prioritizing, or you're open to almost anything?
I'm open to both, obviously. I mean, I have a very mixed background. My mother is white, she's English, Scottish, and Welsh, and then my father, of course, is Indian. And so I have that multiverse background where I'm connected and drawn to both cultures and both backgrounds. But right now I'm focusing on Bollywood. So, hoping to work here and work in South films, Gujarati films, especially because I'm Gujarati, and obviously Bollywood films, especially because I can dance. So hoping I'll get like a masala film or something that I can do. That'd be an awesome opportunity.
Okay, and you mentioned South films as well. So are you working towards the South industry as well? Are you talking to some people over there as well?
I just landed 2 days ago, so my meetings will start right after the promotions. But I'm working on Bollywood right now, and then I'll branch out to the South.
Okay, so who are the actors that you like? Say, if you talk about say Bollywood and South industry.
I grew up watching that generation of Rani Mukerji and Hrithik Roshan and, Kajol and that generation. And so for me, I always idolized them as a kid. And they were the reason why I wanted to and was so drawn to Bollywood even to this age. So I would love to work with one of them. And as for the South, Maddie Madhuvan is such a great South actor, and I would love to work with him as well. He's brilliant.
You being a Gujarati, do you know Pratik Gandhi?
Yeah, he's a superstar of Gujarati cinema, right? So who doesn't?
All right. Okay. And do you like Garba and all the Gujarati dance forms?
Yes, 100%. I used to go to Garba Ras every single year. And moving to LA, I kind of lost that sense of community because I was originally from New Jersey. And of course, there's so many Indians in New Jersey. So when I moved to LA, I didn't really have that community. But in the last 2 years, I've been able to gain a really solid Gujarati community. So even some of my Punjabi friends, I'm like, let's go. We're going to Garba Ras. You're going to do it. It's fine. So we all get in the car and we go together. But yeah, love doing Garba.
Okay, what about song and dance? Bollywood song and dance. Do you find that fascinating?
Yeah, I grew up as a dancer, so I did, tap, ballet, jazz, lyrical, modern, point, hip hop, all of the above, and including Bollywood dancing. So I'm a trained dancer since I was a child. I actually studied at Princeton Repertory Ballet, so I have that classical training in the Western world. But that obviously ballet helps with anything, and classical training helps with any type of dance. And so, grew up doing fusion Bollywood dancing and have a huge love for it. So of course, that's like what I said. I want to do this masala film just so I can show off my skills.
Who are the filmmakers that you'd like to work with?
Sanjay Leela Bhansali is on the top of my dream list to work with for obvious reasons. I just watched Gangubai Kathiawadi, and obviously being Gujarati, I had a very strong draw to it, but it was such an empowering film. I will admit that I was sobbing watching it because it touched me so deeply to be able to show women in such a light without sexualizing them in any way, shape, or form. And I think he's done it so beautifully. I mean, the whole film is a piece of art.
You've lived in US for many years now. You want to work out here. So in terms of accent and everything, are you working on that? Do you think that's important?
Yeah, of course. I do. Yeah, I have a slight American accent in my Hindi, but I speak Gujarati fluently, and I've been learning Hindi since I was a kid. So I have that Hinglish, that Bombay Hindi down.
Can we hear something?
हाँ, हम बातें कर सकते हैं हिंदी में. It's not that bad, right?
Very nice.
And my Gujarati is not that bad either. So, કેમ છો બધા? જય શ્રી કૃષ્ણ. મારું નામ એમિલી છે. તમારું નામ શું છે? See, હું બધું બોલી શકું.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. All right, so Emily, lovely talking to you, and all the best wishes for Jungle Cry and all your future ventures. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's all we have from Bollywood Hungama. Keep on watching.